Hey Pathfinders, our book has finally arrived. The Pathfinder's Journey is live on Amazon right now and ready for you. If you have already purchased our book and or left us a review, we thank you endlessly. If you haven't, what are you waiting for? The ebook sale of 99 cents won't last long, so head over to Amazon today to get your copy. Be sure to download the free 7-day reading journal to make your journey even more worthwhile. Well, that's all for now. Check out the link in the show notes to get your copy of The Pathfinder's Journey today. Enjoy the show. When you sit down after a course or after reading a book or during a course or during reading a book and you list out things, think of it as brainstorming. You're mind mapping what could be. Welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast with your host, Eric and Tiffany Vogel. We spent several hard years building a rental property portfolio so we could have more time with our family and live our ideal life. Finding your path can be difficult, so we're here to help guide you along the way with lessons, tips, and tricks to design and implement your dream life through real estate investing. Now sit back, turn up the volume, and get ready for this episode of the On Purpose Investor. Hey Pathfinders, welcome back to the On Purpose Investor Podcast with your host Eric.
Wow, and Tiffany.
Well, I had to add a little bit of oomph into it.
Okay.
Because I'm excited about today's episode.
Great.
Today we're going to be talking about education and the value of education. Kind of kick this one off in the right direction. Education is important. You should go to school. School is not for fools. School is important.
All I think of is School of Rock. And just, I'm on a bill sitting on Capitol Hill and getting your edumacation.
You said School of Rock and I immediately thought Jack Black.
Oh. Or is it School of Rock? It's Schoolhouse Rock.
Schoolhouse Rock.
Oops.
That's right.
Okay. Well, Jack Black was probably the appropriate thing to think of then.
Yeah. Do you think Schoolhouse Rock does anything on real estate investing?
I don't know. We should look. Probably not.
Oh my gosh. Another thing to add to our products line. So we have the Delayed Gratification Care Bear. We have the Multiple Hat Sombrero. And now we're going to have a line of claymation videos, Schoolhouse Rock style, on real estate investing. So if there's anybody out there that knows how to make claymation, hit us up.
Sounds great. I guess to start off, we, early on in our business, did not pay for formal education.
And we're talking about education in the sense of educating in real estate.
Yes.
Not like going to college
right.
or graduating high school.
Yeah.
Which, if you're in high school, keep going.
Yeah.
It's worth it. Get the education.
We didn't go to seminars. We didn't really invest in any formal mentors or anything. It was you, me, a couple books, and some podcasts.
Right. And on the last episode, we talked about how we shut down life.
Yeah.
And we just immersed ourselves in the podcast, in the books, in the audio books, and the video training that was free on BiggerPockets. We just immersed ourselves in stuff that was free.
And it served us well, but we probably could have shortcutted a lot.
But at the beginning, we were very invested in making sure it happened. We were both still working our jobs, and it had a hobby-esque feel to it. Yeah. It's like, yeah, we'll put some energy into this. We're actually going to put all of our energy into it, but we're not going to go dump some money into it because if it doesn't pan out, we don't want to have put that money
Yeah, and
out.
we wanted to put every penny into the deal. If we could. I kind of think of Candyland. When you're going along, if you land on a certain space, you can shortcut like half the board and move ahead.
Is that Chutes and Ladders?
I've never played Chutes and Ladders. I love Candyland.
I like Chutes and Ladders. I always got the chutes. I've never won the game.
Okay.
Chutes and Ladders.
I don't know how to play it, but I guess it's the same premise.
The idea is you bounce around the board game, and if you land on a chute, you're back down to where you were.
So it's the same idea of we could have taken some shortcuts by paying money, I think. So we want to talk today about the different types of education, and you can either pay for education or you can pay with experience.
And to let y'all know, we paid with experience.
In a lot of ways.
In the beginnings.
Yes.
And we'll talk about how it worked for us, and maybe you don't want to go through that.
Yeah. And so next week we'll talk more about how this applied in our business.
Mm-hmm.
But our first deal that we tried to make a true investment property, not the house Eric had lived in, but our first purchase for investment purposes was 9 months, and we never closed on it. We lost a couple $1,000s and learned a ton. So that was a $2,000 seminar that had we actually gone to a, let's say, $600 seminar, we would have been out $1,200 and saved us 9 months of frustration.
That's right.
But it was the path we took. It got us where we are, so we're no regrets there. But if we can help someone shortcut and I guess take a ladder instead of a chute and get to their goal a little bit faster, we want to do that. So
let's talk about our free materials that we, soaked up all in the beginning.
Yeah. So we were heavy into podcasts, heavy in BiggerPockets and reading materials out there. Anytime they had like something Brandon would mention of free ebooks, we'd go read those.
We attended all the webinars, the free webinars that they would put on.
Yep. And we went to our local meetup. That was $5 a meeting, or actually it was $2 a meeting back then. So
inflation.
Yes. So we would spend $4 a month on that education. But we dove deep into the free materials that were out there and books. There's so much value in podcasts, I think. And that's why we wanted to start this podcast, because you can reach a lot of people in a way that's not very intrusive. We take up 30 minutes of time a week from you, but we hope that it's providing a lot of value and getting you thinking differently.
Yeah, the whole purpose of the On Purpose Investor podcast is that you can hear what we have gone through and hear what has worked for us and hear what has not worked for us, and either apply it or not. And Tiffany exits each episode with you only get one life, and it's important that you do it on purpose. The things that we talk about each week, they are things that have been huge for us, and education was definitely one of them.
Yeah.
So what's another free avenue for people getting into it? I mean, we got the podcasts, we got the free materials on BiggerPockets. I know there are a lot of coaches and stuff out there that do free little intro classes.
Yeah.
And just little plugs to get you to take their courses. And, just go out there and explore. There are a lot of different educators out there, but buyer beware. There are a lot of, what's the word? Not scammer. There's another word for
I can't read your mind.
The coaches that just have big sales pitches.
I don't know. If they're on a yacht with a bunch of bikini-clad women, it's probably not the guru for you.
Maybe one day I'll be that guy, and you'll be in a bikini behind me.
Right. No.
Maybe not.
All right. So moving on.
There's one more thing for free. And if you don't have Audible, if you jump on Amazon's Audible, you can download your first book for free. That is something that I found as just a little tip. If you don't have Audible and you haven't downloaded a book before, you can get your first one for free.
Well, and how much is Audible? It's $15 a month?
I think it's $15 a month, and you get 1 credit a month.
Yeah.
And you can use that credit for any book.
So, and that ties to books, whether it's a physical book or audiobook or Kindle book. I mean, Kindle books are $10. Audible's $15 a month.
And books are whatever the price of the book is.
Yeah, and they're usually under $20, I would say, for most paperbacks.
Yeah. So let's get into books. Let's talk about some books that we've read and recommend.
I just want to say books are a little bit more expensive than free, but they're still so low cost. So we also went to the library a lot, which I guess we could throw into the free category.
Yes.
So our library where we are it's a smaller county. I mean, it's a good size, but I wound up getting and paying for a library card in one of the counties on the north side of Atlanta that has a lot more people in that county. And I want to say it's like $30 a year or something for a non-resident library card. I don't ever go there and get physical books, but they have a really good ebook selection. So that's another thought, is potentially finding an area near you. I have to go in person to renew my card, so you don't want to necessarily do something across the country, but find a library that's in a county that's bigger than the county you're in and have access to more books that way.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a Netflix subscription.
Yeah, a lot cheaper, and
you get access.
Your life.
Yeah, and you get access to life-changing material.
We're big advocates on books, and that's part of why we're writing a book, because we think it can again have huge impact on people for a low entry cost. Some of the books that really had a huge impact on our business, we talked about Eric not managing his property well and not collecting rent checks, and I got onto BiggerPockets and found Brandon Turner and read his book with Heather on the book on managing rental properties, and that gave us a system to run our business off of.
Well, Tiffany had that book in her hand every single night and the computer beside her and was just taking notes on, this is how we're going to set up this property that you have. Here's how we're going to set up the lease. Here's how we're going to scan our new tenants and determine who's going to rent it.
Right.
Here's how we're going to determine our security deposit and all this other stuff. I mean, that book is just slap full of information on how to manage a rental property.
He goes so deep to say you should have a file cabinet to hold paperwork, and here's how I did it. So he has a folder for each property and 6 subfolders. And I took exactly what he said in the book and replicated it. Now, I don't use every folder. I still have that system in place, but it took so much of the mental energy away from trying to figure out, well, what folders do I need to keep this organized? Just followed what he said. We're big on, when we get advice, we follow it to a T, because if someone has experienced this, we want to piggyback on that experience and apply it in our business, and we tweak it as we go. But if someone's giving us advice, we just follow it. And that's pretty much what we did with that book. And we'll talk about seminars in a little bit. We went to a seminar that shifted our business more, but this was the foundation that got us started and got us really starting to shift from that hobby mode into more of a business.
So obviously, and I've mentioned it on almost every podcast, Rhinoceros Success was a huge mindset shifting book for me. But the book that kind of got me into the nitty gritty nuts and bolts of how does rental property investing work? What does it look like? What are the different strategies? And that was a book by Mark Ferguson that I read, and it's called Build a Rental Property Empire. Yeah, the book's a little gimmicky at times where, Mark, he had this really big vision to own a Lamborghini. And he talks a lot about owning this Lamborghini, and toward the end of the book, he reveals that he had built his rental property portfolio big enough that he could go buy it and it not impact his personal finances, and he let his business pay for his toy. And that was a huge shift for me because I want a race car one day, and it kind of put it in terms for me that, we can build this rental property empire and it can support the hobby that I want to have one day. It was just very impactful to read that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's gimmicky. I would say a better way to approach it is most people's why is travel, family, time freedom. His was, I want this flashy sports car.
Right.
And that's okay.
And he's a car collector. And he, if you don't follow him on Facebook or Instagram, you should go follow him because he posts a lot about his cars. And he upgraded his 4-car garage to an 8-car garage by putting lifts in it. So now he has 4 exotic cars on the bottom and 4 on top.
He kind of at times can look like the guru on a boat with the bikini-clad women.
Yeah.
But it's just his why is luxury car focused.
Guru. That was the word I was looking for.
I said guru earlier and you didn't. Anyways.
I missed it.
Working with your spouse is fun.
It is.
Another book that really had a huge impact on me, and this was the first book I read, it was Building Wealth One House at a Time by John Schaab. We have actually taken a seminar by him fairly recently and have learned a lot. But this book, it really broke it down into you can build slowly and generate lifetime generational wealth without going, I guess, as hardcore as we did. And it broke it down in a very simple way. He talks a lot about the different cycles in the market, and that really resonated with me. Of neighborhoods go through cycles where they're very owner occupied heavy, and then they become tenant occupied, and then it cycles back around. So it was a really good read for me starting out. I highly recommend it to anyone that's looking to get involved.
Right. One that I read by Chip Gaines is called Capital Gains. And that book, it's silly. And it's narrated by Chip Gaines because I listened to it on Audible. And when you listen to Chip talk, I mean, if you ever watched their show back in the day when they had it, what network was it?
It was on HGTV back then.
It was on HGTV.
Before they got
now,
their own network.
Now they bought the network and it's called Magnolia TV. The book is great. It tells the story of all the hustle that they went through, all the crazy stories that Chip did when he drove down to Mexico with a beater truck and his dog, and Joanna calls him, tell him to get home, and he drove through the night to get home and was in trouble, and it was just a good story.
It was relatable for you.
It was quite relatable to hear the hustle that they went through, because you see them on TV and you're like, oh, they got it all, but they're just like me and Tiffany, they're just like you and anyone listening. They all put their pants on one leg at a time. They all are just people. And no matter who you follow, no matter who you listen to or read from, we're all people. And we all get our start. Some people start on first base and have a little bit of advantage. Some people start on third base and, they just have to walk home. But people like me, I started out in the parking lot, trying to get my used equipment out of the trunk of the car, barely getting to the dugout. And everyone starts somewhere. And the story of Chip and Joanna, They had very humble beginnings, and that book was great to put an insight of, even people that look big and flashy and seem to have it all, they started somewhere.
Yeah. And they worked hard.
They worked very hard.
Yeah.
And that book just put it in perspective that I may not have much right now, but if I hustle like Chip and Joanna hustled, If I can put in that mentality, I can do it too.
It's almost like if this jackaloon can do it, I can do it. Because he is he's very relatable.
He is very relatable.
And the final one that we wanted to talk about is Your Money or Your Life by Vicky Robbins. That book, it really helps you get your personal finances in line and to start thinking about your value and what's worthwhile for you, and helps you calculate what's your hourly rate, and then helps you decide, if I'm going to buy this guitar, because I'm looking at Eric's super fancy, nice guitar, that's going to cost me a certain number of hours of work. And is it worth, me working for a week to be able to buy this cool guitar? It just frames up, is it worth it for you to make that purchase?
Yeah.
And really transformed our mind of, we wanted to have the passive income, so we weren't investing our time to afford the things that we wanted out of life.
Yeah, it's easy to go down a rabbit hole of, I'm working my 40 hours, I got a paycheck, I'm going to spend it because I earned it. It shifts your thinking into, I worked 40 hours for this amount of dollars, and it's going to have the buying power to do this. Is what it's buying really worth the time I spent to earn that dollar? Yeah. And it really shifted my mindset on the value of a dollar.
Yeah.
Because, like we said in the last episode, I didn't get that financial training as a child. I didn't come up in a home that taught me the value of a dollar. So that book can really transform you if you have a lot of financial literacy or none. It really spans the scope of any intellectual level on finances.
And I will say that book has homework attached to it, where you have to really put some time into it.
Yeah, she encourages you to track all of your expenses.
You get out of it what you put into it. All of investing and changing your mindset. If you're really serious about doing it, follow the steps in these books. And we included in this list some books that don't have homework, that are, the Capital Gains book is just a good, fun read.
Mm-hmm.
Those are important too. But if you're going to read something and it has key action takeaways, do them. They're in there for a reason, because it had an impact on the author or their community. And we recommend you really putting in the work instead of just reading it and then putting it on the shelf. You have to actually apply what you've learned.
Now, you can't get something from nothing. I've always heard it put, everything that you want out of life or anything that you want out of something is like a wallet. You can't pull money out of a wallet that you didn't put in there.
Yeah.
If you want to put in the work, you're going to be able to pull out the reward later.
Yeah. Well, and I think the same goes for seminars. Mm-hmm. Every time we do a course, at the end of that course, whether it's the next day or that night, I always try to sit down and just write down my key takeaways and how I'm going to apply them in life. Because I feel like if I don't, then that time I spent, it goes to waste. Like we talk about at the end of the episodes, like you really want to make the time you spend on all these activities impactful and implementing them in your life.
When you sit down after a course or after reading a book or during a course or during reading a book and you list out things, think of it as brainstorming. You're mind mapping what could be.
Yeah.
Just because you write it down doesn't mean you have to do it. But it's a great way to just, travel through your brain and say, let's take into consideration Gary Johnston's financial freedom principles. He's like, dream big, here's the list of things that you want, and you're listing them out. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have to work to go get those items, because those items may change. You're just big picture dreaming of the things.
Right.
And just because you write something down doesn't mean you have to do it, but it is the first step to achieving it.
Right. And I would even challenge you and recommend, as you're taking in any of this education content, have a sheet of paper or a notebook where you just write tidbits of takeaways, and once a week try to apply one of them.
Yeah.
And I think Gary does that in his course book.
He does.
I'm going to his class coming up at the end of May, so I'm really looking forward to going through that again, because it's been a while. But he pushes you to make those key takeaways as you go through the course.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I've really taken from him. So when I'm reading a book or going through a course, I make notes of, this is something to follow up on later. And sometimes it's just refer back to page 52 of the pamphlet.
Mm-hmm.
So that way at the end I have all my notes ready, and then I can work through those key takeaways. So I guess all of that to say, just some ways to make the education more impactful that's worked for us.
Right. So let's jump into our next topic of seminars.
Yeah.
We've already kind of breezed over a little bit. What's a conference and what is a seminar? What's the difference between the two?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's a conference is a group of educators that come together for a week or a weekend or however long it is, and you get a taste of that educator. And on the other hand, a seminar is usually a 2 or 3 day event where that one person is standing up and speaking the entire time. So I kind of view the conference as like the teaser to get you engaged, and you can hear a lot of people, but I guess you're going wide, and the seminars you're going deep.
So is it worth it to go to conferences?
I think especially starting out, yes. We all have areas that we have really strong skill sets, and we have areas we need to improve. And I would recommend focusing on those improvement areas. So for us early on, we felt comfortable with our property management system. So we focused on doing courses in areas that didn't include that initially. Mm-hmm. And we did later go to a different seminar. But the point was we chose the areas that we needed to focus on and invested in those seminars first.
Right. There are some conferences that we have attended that I can say was very impactful. The biggest conference we went to was one that Bill Cook put together, and it was the Captains of the Deal. But it was a cruise, right? And that conference was on a boat, and it was great, and we got to hear people like Dykes Boddiford, Peter Fortunato, Bill Cook, and company talk, and Vina Jones Cox talk about what they do. And that was the first conference or seminar or anything we ever went to. And it was huge. But unfortunately, Bill is not hosting that conference anymore, but it is transformed into a new conference. And that is hosted by our friends Jeff and Derek out of Wisconsin. They host the Generations of Wealth Conference.
Yeah, so it was intended to be a cruise also.
Uh-huh.
COVID changed the rules on that a little bit.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
It's land-based now.
Mm-hmm.
This past year it was in Orlando. Is that right?
That's right. At the Jimmy Buffett Margaritaville Resort. Yes.
And that was I believe it was 5 days. So that's a good opportunity to hear a lot of people talk, and really you get different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, my head exploded after that cruise, not literally, but I still have my head. But it was, I guess, just a great way to learn. And we did not get to attend BPCon this past year, and we will not be attending this upcoming year because we are expecting a baby to come any day of that conference. So we won't be able to attend. But
so to our listeners, this is our big announcement. We're expecting baby number 2 in October.
Yes.
So woohoo, celebration.
Yeah. So we
gave our child an eviction notice yesterday.
Yes.
So he's being evicted of his only child status.
And his crib.
But
I am going to be at the Invest Her conference for BiggerPockets, so I'm looking forward to spending time there. So I guess conferences give you an opportunity to engage with a lot of people and hear a lot of speakers, but seminars give you the ability to go really deep on a topic and really understand that teacher's mindset and really change your business.
So some seminars that we've attended, Gary Johnston and Clyde Wilson's Financial Freedom Principles and Next Steps. What are those about?
Yeah, the Financial Freedom Principles is really kind of similar to Your Money or Your Life. It helps you change the way you view money and your mindset around it. There's a great section on taxes, the cash flow quadrant, if you're familiar with Rich Dad. So how being self-employed taxes you versus being a W-2 employee versus an investor. I have a background in finance, so I expected to not get a lot out of it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I learned a ton. So no matter how much you know in finance, you can still learn something.
Yeah, and if you go to that seminar, you get a financial calculator and you learn how to use it.
Yeah.
So if you're, structuring a deal, you know how to use a financial calculator and play with the numbers and see, I'm going to change my interest, or I'm going to change the number of payments, or, he gets really into, change the first 15 payments and then change the later payments and sell the first payments. And he gets into a lot of very in-depth structuring techniques using financial calculator.
Yeah, it just changes your perspective. And I got so much out of it that I am going back again this year. Eric, unfortunately, won't be able to attend because he's on military duty.
But I will be going to the hotel in the evening.
For the networking.
And hang out.
I think it's Danny that says it, that there's 2 parts of a seminar. There's the course, and then there's the networking.
Right.
And Gary has said in the class, sometimes the networking is more valuable than what you'll get in the course.
Yeah.
And he's okay if you step out to have conversations with other investors. And we got a lot of value out of being in the room with them.
Absolutely.
And we stay up late in the hotel. I always go to bed early in general, but when we go to things like this, I'm up. I'm the party animal. It's hilarious.
She's a different person.
Yeah, I'll stay up till 2 and I know I'm going to be tired the next day, but I'll catch up on that sleep later because investing in those relationships is important. And I'm an introvert. Sometimes it's painful to sit and have conversations for hours and hours and hours. But it has been what has helped us push forward on our business.
Right.
So even if you're uncomfortable and want to go back to your room and watch Netflix or do something else, stay for the networking.
Even if you sit at a table by yourself and you just have to wait for someone to come talk to you, you're in the room and someone is going to come talk to you.
Or take the initiative and approach somebody and say, hey, I'm new, but would love to hear how you found out about this meeting, or what do you do for work? Or, there's so many questions you can ask. Have a go-to couple of questions if you're not a very talkative and extroverted person. People like to talk about themselves. So just ask a couple questions and people will get going.
Overall, people that attend these seminars, especially the ones we're mentioning, are really good people.
Yeah.
There's an overarching air of, I want to share my knowledge, I want to share my experience, or I just want to share with other people.
Yeah. All right. So continuing on, we have followed Bill Cook a lot and have learned a ton from him, starting with the cruise through other seminars. He does a lot on creative deal structuring and options.
And door knocking.
Yes. Yeah. Good stuff there. Pete Fortunato. Go search YouTube for Pete, or we can put it in the show notes. He's a different animal. Listening to him, you have to pause it at times when you're watching a video and just be like, what the heck did he just say?
Well, yeah, and you kind of have to frame it in the sense that, Pete rode around with Jimmy Napier and Jack Miller, and that was his circle.
Who are those guys?
So Jack Miller is king of real estate investing in the South, in the Florida area. They call them Millerites, people that follow Jack Miller. And if you don't have any knowledge of Jack Miller, go Google him.
Yeah, he's got a website where all of his content, it's a very low fee to get access to it, and you get a lifetime membership.
We'll put a link to that website in the show notes. We have a lifetime membership to it, and occasionally I'll go and just dive in and listen to Jack Miller talk.
Yeah,
he just had a way of talking that was very in depth and just explored insane creative deal structuring and just ways of taking down deals and structuring deals. But, Pete Fortunato was one of the guys that rode around with Jack Miller and Jimmy Napier.
And Pete just views the world differently.
That's right.
Getting just insight into his perspective will transform how you think about real estate and government policies and a lot of other things.
He has a seminar that he does on capitalism.
Yes.
And it's it's very enjoyable.
I have learned so much from him. Just every time I take another class or hear him speak, you gain a little bit more knowledge. So when you first listen to him, it's like drinking from a fire hose, no matter how experienced you are. Every time you get a little bit more insight, and then you're just sitting there like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that's what he's saying. It's mind-blowing stuff. Even if you're an experienced investor, I highly, highly recommend listening to Pete, because he has a different viewpoint than most people. Also recommend Dyke Spotiford. He is really great on the lending side. I took his hard money lending class probably a year or two ago now, and we have not done any loans ourselves yet, but it helped me as a borrower to understand how the lender views things, and just, I guess, put things into perspective for me in a different way. So I get to see both sides of a deal now.
And his website is assets101.com.
Yep.
And, all the people that we're mentioning, we are going to put their info on the show notes.
Yeah. And I would say finally, Vina Jones Cox out of Ohio. She has great content, especially on the wholesaling side. She does a lot with creative deal structuring also. She is very inspirational in her approach, and she doesn't take a lot of crap from anyone, and she pushes after her goals, and
she's a boss.
She's successful.
Yeah. You forgot to mention David Tilney.
Oh, I did.
Who is landlording.
Yes, right. And property management. Mm-hmm. He has a great class on hassle-free property management. We took that probably, again, a year or two ago.
Right.
It was during COVID, and it was on Zoom, which that's one of the great things. A lot of these classes are now offered on Zoom. That course really changed how we managed our business and allowed us to do a lot more hands-off management. So highly recommend that course. And he also, with that course, does a section on master leasing. Mm-hmm. And that can be a great tactic if you're new and don't have a lot of capital to get some experience and get some cash flow from properties without having to put up a huge down payment.
Right. So let's shift gears out of seminars and go into masterminds.
Yeah. So
masterminds are very in-depth.
Yeah. They're definitely the highest cost approach, but I think you get the highest value from it.
I think so too. I mean, you're completely immersing yourself into a small, usually not more than 10 people, very like-minded individuals that all have different backgrounds.
Right, like-minded but different. Like you're shooting after similar goals.
Right.
So you're being pushed and encouraged by people that are chasing the same things as you. I was talking with someone the other night at our meetup about how at times it can almost feel like you're a refugee in your normal day-to-day life. And my point in that is there are times when, as an investor, you have changed a lot of your mindset and your approach, and people around you just don't understand. And I know you and I kind of felt like we were alone at times with our investing because our families didn't understand, our friends didn't understand. And going to these seminars, it was like you're with your people in a way. And I think the mastermind helped connect us with other investors and shifted to where we have friends now that are investors. And
they're all over the country.
Yeah.
And so the mastermind we were a part of is Jeff and Derek. They're out of Wisconsin. It's called the Circle of Trust. And that was a life-changing mastermind that we were a part of. And we were challenged in ways we never knew we needed to be challenged. We were driven to make decisions about our business, about another business we had. And, ultimately it shifted our life in the right direction.
Yeah.
And unfortunately we couldn't remain in that mastermind because, we started having babies and, going to a mastermind, you got to be able to be all in. And when they were doing those retreats, our son was really young. So
they did the retreat in January, and our son was born at the end of December. So he was like weeks old. So it just was not feasible.
Right.
And I did not want to spend time away from our son.
Mm-hmm.
I chose and busted my butt to build this life so we could be with our kids.
Right.
And when they're especially under a year, I don't want to travel. I did the travel thing with my W-2. We talked about that last week.
Mm-hmm.
So I really wanted to be present and with our children. So we have actually decided to launch our own masterminds. I guess, do you want to talk about yours?
Yeah. So my mastermind is called the Pathfinders Mastermind. And the Pathfinder name, which I use at the beginning of every episode, it's what I identify myself as and what I hope you identify as well. That we're all on a path, that we are on this journey together or by yourself to reach your dream life. And our book, The Pathfinder's Journey, is all about becoming a Pathfinder. And so the Pathfinder's Mastermind, it's all about helping you to become a Pathfinder. Being a Pathfinder means that you live each day with extreme intentionality. That will lead you to unlock a life that you could only previously dream about. Discover your true potential by investing in yourself and joining that elite group of like-minded entrepreneurs. So in that mastermind, hopefully what you will gain out of it is that you'll share successes and failures on a monthly Zoom meeting with the group. You'll do one-on-one mentoring with me as your coach. We'll do that once a month. There'll be 2 destination trips within the year that the mastermind is kicked off. It will be to some location. It might be the beach, it might be the mountains, but it'll be a 3 to 5 day trip where we're turning off our phones, we're turning off everything, and we're going to focus on becoming a Pathfinder and really narrowing your vision on your life. The mastermind is for serious individuals and or power couples that really want to take the next step to establishing and building a life worth living. So that is my sales pitch for the Pathfinders Mastermind.
I guess I want to add, the mastermind is really mindset focused and digging deep into what you want out of life. Mm-hmm. Because when you're in a group like this, you're getting advice from someone whose goals are very different from you. At times it can be challenging because their why and their needs and their toolbox is different from yours. So it's going to be very much set up in a way where we talk about, okay, I am looking to build my business to this level. Because we have friends who have these massive portfolios, and that's awesome. That's not our vision.
Yeah.
We want to be lazy. We want the least amount of work. We're not trying to grow a big empire. So
we want the $5 million portfolio, not the $500 million portfolio.
So, I mean, like talking about Brandon Turner, he's someone that a lot of people are familiar with.
Yeah.
His business is way bigger than our vision, at least right now. Mm-hmm. And he has built systems and a team to make it what he wants. The advice that someone should give Brandon is very different from the advice we should receive.
Right.
So this mastermind is going to be framed in a way that as people are giving their 2 cents, they're keeping in mind that individual's why and vision and direction.
It'll be very guided, very structured in a way that it'll be tailored to the members.
Yeah.
To make sure that we are preparing the right material that will help you
right,
to reach your next steps. Now tell them about your mastermind.
Yeah, so mine's very different. As a woman investor and then becoming a mom, my identity had shifted a lot, and I want to create a group for women that's very family friendly, and it's not necessarily just for moms. The idea is, I don't want to be in a group that's heavily men, because it puts me in an awkward situation at times, because if I want to have a one-on-one conversation, I'm having a conversation with another man. For our relationship, that's a boundary that I just don't think is appropriate. Just personally, I'm not going to go out to dinner or have coffee with another man from our mastermind. Mm-hmm. That's just a boundary I've set. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's who I am. Right. So I want to be in a group where I can go out with my fellow mastermind people and it not cross a boundary that I have set. I have faced situations where I'm treated differently because I'm a woman. And there are things in our business that I am better at than Eric. But individuals in our community would rather talk to Eric than me. And it was frustrating. So I want to be able to help support women who have experienced similar things, like working with a contractor and they're overbidding you just because you have a ponytail. Like, it's just, It's silly. So, and I guess men can have ponytails too.
I call it a man bun.
Yeah. Anyways, my group, I want to host our retreats at family-friendly locations. We have a Great Wolf Lodge about 45 minutes from us, so that's probably going to be my first location. So we'll all stay in the hotel. We'll meet for half the day or 3/4 of the day and let our spouses or friends hang out with the kids in the water park and have a great time. So it'll be a kind of a mini vacation for your kids that you can write off as a business expense. So a little perk there. And we, as the women, will meet and really dig deep into our businesses, but it's structured in a way that is family focused, because we're going to have another baby. I'm going to be nursing. I can't just send the baby away for a week while I go do something. So really just trying to build a group for women and moms in particular. And with this group, we'll do regular Zoom calls also, the twice a year retreats, and then also quarterly one-on-one calls to really dig deep into your specific problems. Our plan is to launch these in the coming months. We're still kind of building out the infrastructure and the framework, but we're really excited to get these off the ground and offer value to you, our mastermind attendees. It's not something we're trying to do for ourselves. We're trying to offer this because we see there's a need for this kind of a mastermind and really hope it will grow and help people.
Right. And if you want more information on our masterminds, go to our website, onpurposeinvestor.com, and you'll see a tab for masterminds, and just click which one you're interested in. There's the Pathfinders Mastermind and the On Purpose Mom Mastermind.
Yeah. All right. So we have talked about education pretty extensively. So let's talk a little bit about the alternative of not getting an education.
Kind of how we started.
Yeah.
Paying with experience.
Yeah. So I think there's kind of a risk of losing money and not even knowing it.
Right.
I have a friend who I think they were hanging sheetrock, and her husband punched a nail and it hit a pipe, and then they had a slow plumbing leak that took 3 or 4 trips from the plumber and
months to figure out.
So then they had to tear the wall out, fix the leak. If she had just paid someone to do that job in the first place, they would have never had that issue.
Right. The experience that she could have paid, the education she could have paid for would have been hire out your jobs.
Right.
And I did the same thing. I did all of the work myself. We just learned through experience. Yeah. And we didn't pay for these seminars that would have encouraged us, in order to scale either faster or smarter. You could just pay for those things to be done, because one thing you get in these seminars is the understanding that time is precious. And when you do things on your own and you're doing it by gaining experience, you're losing time.
Right.
And what you're giving up during that time is potential other deals and potential other learning opportunities.
Right. We paid for some education through, like I was talking about, our first deal that didn't happen. It was worth every penny that we lost. You learn things more deeply and on another level when you're in it and invested and giving your time and money.
Yeah, when you're out there doing things and figuring it out, you are learning it, like Tiffany said, on another level. And you learn it on another level in a way that you have a different set of expectations for the people that you pay to do it in the future. So when I pay a contractor to hang a interior door, I know what goes into it. I know that, it may look simple, but getting it lined up and getting it to swing the right way and getting it to latch properly without gaps, and it is a skilled job, and it takes, knowledge. And you can either just pay someone to do it, or you can spend the time to figure it out.
Yeah.
But you're giving up something
Yeah.
while doing that.
Yeah, and I think you can also gain experience without putting money into your own deal by finding someone that'll mentor you and just following them around on their deal. So you're giving up time, which has a cost, but you're not
during that time you're learning.
Right. And I mean, we've had people shadow us and learn kind of how we approach things, and you can find someone who will invest in you and sometimes offer to pay them for their time, because experienced investors, their time is worth a lot. Like for us, I think our hourly rate that we look to gain on an investment has gone up significantly over the last few years, because that your money or your life, what's your life energy worth scenario has shifted. So for more seasoned investors, their time is worth a lot, and they're not going to just give it away freely. But if you can learn from others and mentors, it's another way to kind of shortcut the path.
Right. So you can either pay for education, or you can gain the experience by doing.
Yeah.
And you're paying for education by doing that, just in a different way.
Right.
It's not formal education.
And offer free labor to these people, these mentors, because we don't have the time to do everything. But imagine early on if we had offered to file dispossessory paperwork for a seasoned investor. We would have learned so much.
Oh, right.
And going to court and learning that process. So
or offering to, help manage a renovation, or to help
screen tenants.
Screen tenants, yeah.
There's a lot of things you can offer that will help you gain insight, that won't cost you anything. It's just giving up your time, but I think you'll learn on a deeper level than you would just going to a class.
Exactly.
All right. Anything else?
No, I think we covered it all.
Yeah, all right. Well, thank you all for hanging out with us and listening to us talk about the value of education. What lessons can you take away and apply to your life? Don't let the time you just invested go to waste. You only get one life, so live it purposefully. That's all we have for you today. See you next time.
Are you ready to discover and build your dream life? Then it's time to become a Pathfinder. Head over to onpurposeinvestor.com and sign up for our newsletter to get tips and tricks to help you find your path and get the latest from our blog. If you haven't already, we'd really appreciate an honest review on your favorite podcast app. If you're enjoying this show, share it with friends, family, and fellow investors. See you next time at the On Purpose Investor Podcast.